The Disney Plus Hulu HBO Max bundle. The ultimate bundle at an unbelievable price. Starting at $19.99 a month. On Disney Plus, go behind the scenes with Taylor Swift in the end of an era.
Every single one of us all clicked together.
Battle it out with The Roses on Hulu.
Things are getting a little out of hand.
Well, you think?
And don't miss The Conjuring, Last Rites on HBO Max.
I don't know how to protect you this time.
All these and more streaming this month. Plans starting at $19.99 a month. Terms apply. Visit Disney Plus Hulu HBO Max Bundle.com for details.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Hey, where you been? Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis. We talk with Ryan Day on Tuesday because that's what we do every week, man. It's the routine. We talk to Ryan Day as the Buckeyes prepare to play Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. This is a chance for the Buckeyes to win their 40th ever Big Ten championship and their 6th ever Big Ten championship game and their 7th appearance. Their only loss was in their first appearance after the 2013 season when they lost to Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. This is Indiana's chance to win its first Big Ten championship game and its first appearance. As much Indiana, I think this is probably more Indiana, more Ohio State opponent talk than at any other point this season, Stefan, and that includes last week. I don't know if we were asking Michigan football questions. We were asking Michigan culture and big picture questions. And yet the most intriguing thing that came out of the Indiana presser was that, I don't know, Ryan Day had a little inkling of something.
Yeah, Ryan Day talked about the helmet headset communication issues that Ohio State had at Michigan. If you remember, I think the broadcast might have mentioned it too. In the second half, Ohio State kind of had a power outage on its sideline, and the helmet communication was affected by that. Julian Saint had to run over to the sideline to get play calls. They had the wristband that the quarterback wears with plays and stuff like that. So that was interesting in the sense of their communication is down. That's something that they have to deal with. And you can kind of tell from reading his lips that Ryan Day was telling the officials that, hey, our communication is down. Make sure that, theirs is turned off as well, because that's what you're supposed to do. I think one of our texters pointed out that that's what they do in the NFL as well, is one's not working and the other one has to be shut off. But then what became fascinating was Ryan Day talked about how Ohio State was prepared for that to happen, because he had an inkling last week that Ohio State might have to deal with something like that. And the other coaches, on his staff were kind of like, that is a very weird thing to ask for us to prepare for, but okay, we'll do it. And then he was asked by Doug Maurice, can you explain what you mean by inkling? And, he said, it's a big game. You always got to be prepared for everything in a big game. And he says it's weird. He just kind of had he had a vibe that they should prepare for that. And then he said it's interesting or funny how the mind works sometimes. And then he winked. And that was the wink heard around the world for Ryan Day. And the fact that it is very clear that Ohio State was prepared for some antics, for lack of a better term, from Michigan. And they were prepared for it. So paranoid Ryan Day turned out to be the smartest guy in the world, because that's exactly what ended up happening. And it just adds to what was not a particularly good look for Michigan on Saturday, and a great look for Ohio State on Saturday, and ending the skid in the rivalry. So here we are preparing for Indiana week, and this game is in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. And I would go as far as to say, I guarantee you, Ohio State's not anticipating their headset communication going out, and they're not preparing for that. And I guarantee you they did not do that in preparation for Washington or Illinois or Wisconsin or Purdue. This was a Michigan thing. They thought Michigan was going to pull some stuff, and Michigan pulled some stuff. Maybe the power did just go out, but you had an inkling.
Yeah, it's convenient that the weather was bad. But also, that could have been the case, but also they haven't had this problem all year. And this is not the first time they've played in snow, and this is the first time we've heard of this. What I'm trying to figure out how to ask you this question, Gillis, because we've reached a point with the Michigan stuff where it can easily just sound like we're just looking for more reasons to pile on, because obviously history is told by the victors. And when you win and you shake your opponent's hand and then you go celebrate with your fans while your opponent, who just spent the entire game trying to fight you instead of actually play football against you, but also got bullied on the ground and gave up a 20-play drive at one point in the game, everybody in their program, whether it's players, coaches, or even some of the equipment staff managers, are busy trying to guard the M because they don't want you to do to them what they did to you the year before. Like, all the extra details surrounding this, does that make this more of a thing? Because if this was the only thing that had happened, I am wondering if we'd have just chalked up to, okay, the weather got a little weird and Ohio State's comms went down because of it. But given the team we're talking about and all the extra variables, is that making this more of a, here's another way Michigan was doing things other than just trying to play football on Saturday?
No, not really. I think it has something to do with Connor Stallions more than anything. I think that's kind of the idea where I'm not saying Connor Stallion. Like, you guys remember the scene in Forrest Gump where like he's giving like the pro peace like speech, and then like the military general's just like ripping the plugs out of the wall. I'm not saying Connor Stallions is on the sidelines just like yanking wires out of the wall because he realizes the game's going out of hand. But like, no, that doesn't matter to me. That's irrelevant. That's a whole other separate talking point of like Michigan thought to themselves, like, the way we beat Ohio State is we bully them and blah, blah, blah. And then they took it a step too far and then they went too far with it. Like, that's another issue. This to me was like a Ryan Day winking of like, we know how shady this program is. And Ryan Day talked about winning with humility. Like, I think this is as much as you're going to get from him about the Michigan program. Like, he mentioned winning with humility, and like, you know, he reined in his players and he tried to rein in everybody as best they could. You know, like we talked about this with our video, like Will Kazmarek was trying to plant a flag and Ryan Day was like, absolutely not. And, you know, there was the Davis and Igbinosun interception where he like got the penalty because he ripped his helmet off. Like, Ryan Day kind of said like, yeah, we had to run an extra sprint for that, but he didn't really get punished. Like, they're not gonna go full bore with it, but they are gonna just kind of let you know what they think in a very specific way. And this was one of them. I thought it was really interesting. Like, so just inside baseball for these press conferences, I'm left-handed. So I have to sit on like the left side of the aisle. So I sit like a row or two behind Steven. So right behind me is Cameron Teague Robinson, not Steven and Stefan. So we had a very funny moment where I look at Cameron right after this press conference is over, and I went, that was maybe the craziest thing I've seen in a Ryan Day press conference. Like, and he looked at me and he was like, it's that and the JJ like decision coming in as he's talking. I don't know what a second seat is for that or what a third seat is for that. That was really, really interesting. And Ryan Day, he said the other day, like, I thought what I was going to say and blah, 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 blah. You know, I thought I was going to say this, or I thought about what I was going to say. And I think he just kind of feels that I don't need to go nuts. I can just kind of make a point here and there. And I think people will get what I mean. Ryan Day winked, and he didn't go on this tirade of Michigan's a bunch of cheaters and Michigan this and Michigan that. And he winked, and we all got his point. And I think that's what he's trying to do.
I'm thinking about it. Like, their plan was they had a wristband, and Julian Sand was walking over the day after every single, because a lot of this was happening during the 20-play drive. I actually think it backfired because it gave Ohio State a reason to play even slower than it already wants to play. Because now Julian's got to trudge all the way over there to the sideline, hear the play, trudge all the way back over to the huddle, give out the play, trudge all the way up to the line of scrimmage, look around, make sure everything is set, make the checks he needs to go. Ready, go. Hands the ball off. Bo Jackson gets 7 yards. Okay. Trudge all the way back over to the sideline, get the play from Ryan Day and Brian Hartline, trudge all the way back over to the huddle, give the play, trudge all the way up to the line of scrimmage, survey, make the checks, ready, go. Hand the ball off again. Bo Jackson gets 14. Trudge all the way over to the sideline. Trudge all the way back. You get the point. This team already plays slow.
Has anyone ever had to do this against Michigan before?
I mean,
the Michigan State.
Were they worried about signals, so they would run over to the sideline to get a play?
Michigan State 23.
Are you saying that they found a new way to steal signs,
or just stop the relay sign? Maybe this was Connor Stallion saying if we cut off their headset, they have to do signs again.
So, Gillis, you said you're not saying that Connor Stallions was on the sideline, but you're also not saying that Connor Stallions was on the sideline. He probably
Hang on.
was on the
I
sideline.
need to run into my kitchen and get some tinfoil. I'll be back in a minute. And
Connor Stallions, by the way, was not quote tweeting me after Saturday's game, believe it or not.
I think Connor Stallions had like all this run up to the game and like talking about like, oh, I think blah 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 and this and that and the
hasn't
other.
tweeted since.
And then his first tweet after the game was, unfortunately, Michigan State made the best hire of this cycle. ... Pat Fitzgerald. So kind of just ignore. It's one of those like people tweeting at team sports accounts saying, tweet the final score.
It's just it's again this it's not factual. It's not been proven whether Michigan had anything to do with why Ohio State lost comms or not. It's just your reputation. Your reputation is kind of preceding itself at this point. When you've done all these other things, it's very easy for everybody to just assume maybe you played a part in this as well.
You lose the benefit of the doubt. Like,
yes.
It's the imagine it like if you're like think about it like assuming that Michigan and the referees enforced everything that hey Michigan can't use their signals too or can't use their comms too. I don't know, man. You probably trust Julian Sand more than you trust Bryce Underwood. Like it probably hurt Michigan more. So like this could be the most innocuous like, hey, a cord got wet on Ohio, like, and it snowed, and like, or somebody, Jermaine Matthews jumped in the crowd and accidentally unplugged a router. Like, I don't know. It could be the most innocuous thing in the world. However, you lose the benefit of the doubt. If you're late for work 10 days a month and people start saying, dude, you gotta be on time for work. You gotta be on time for work. And then you're going to work and you hit a deer on the way to the office. People are not going to be like, hey, man, it's totally cool. I understand. It's like, dude, what are we doing here? Show up on time. You lose the benefit of the doubt for this matter and all matters kind of for the next foreseeable future.
For a while, because it's not just that. It's the antics that happen in the tunnel. Right, there were some media people saying that there were some Michigan players who were waiting for Ohio State still up in the tunnel. Like, again, it's just there's always something going on up at Michigan. And it's not just with the game. Michigan State at times has voiced this stuff. Other Big Ten programs have voiced these issues. To Gillis' point, it becomes a boy who cries wolf situation. If everybody else goes to Ann Arbor and leaves Ann Arbor thinking there's just something going on that's a little sketchy. And it's always something. It's never just like a clean operation out there. Then you're right, Gillis. It's kind of hard to even if this one time they actually had nothing to do with it, people are just going to assume they had something to do with it because that's your reputation at this point. Okay. Apparently, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate watch continues because it'll never end. Never ends, man. It's a forever thing. They got asked on Sunday and he got asked again on Tuesday about Carnell and JJ, and his answer was they came out as good as they could have possibly come out of this game. They're going to continue to get healthier. I'm adding the second part. So, yeah, they're back. Listen, man, if Carnell Tate can break off a dude and run 50 yards down the field, catch a touchdown pass, I think he'll be okay. If JJ can break off a sluggo seam and then go score a touchdown, I think they're okay. But plus, both of those guys were jumping up in the stands after the game. So if they can do all that, I think they're good. Any other newsy things, Stefan, that I'm missing out on?
CJ Hicks is now available. The postseason games, including the Big Ten championship game, don't count towards eligibility. So his journey toward being a redshirt this season has ended successfully. He can now play. Ryan Day kind of, CJ's been working a lot of scout teams, so it sounded like Ryan Day is like, hey, we got to get him back into, game form, and, practices will obviously be important to him. It makes me wonder if maybe the Big Ten championship game isn't necessarily where we see him a ton, but the 30 days that they're going to have before, either the Rose Bowl or whatever other bowl game they get because of the bye will certainly help. So I imagine in the playoffs, CJ Hicks has somewhat of a role, alongside Bo Atkinson and Zion Grady. So we'll see what that looks like for CJ. Other news.
I just think it's funny that, hey, CJ Hicks, congratulations, you made it to the end of the season, and now you can keep your red shirt, even though you might play in half of the 16 games Ohio State could potentially play in.
Yeah, I mean, CJ's going to red shirt and potentially have played 8 games this year. Like, whatever. It is what it is. Like, yeah, eligibility rules in college sports just simply don't particularly exist anymore. And I'm not saying it's not CJ's fault at all. And frankly, what Ohio State's doing is the right thing. It's just like when you look at it on paper, it kind of sounds ridiculous. But yeah, it was a good amount of ball talk today with Ryan Day, which we don't often get a ton of, especially recently. Like you said, the Michigan game was so much emotion and big picture. UCLA, Rutgers, Purdue, Wisconsin, even Penn State, those teams couldn't really present much. in terms of X's and O's that made for an interesting conversation. And it's interesting sometimes and kind of informative to listen to how Ryan Day talks about Indiana's RPO and how Fernando Mendoza is good and how their defense is good and all this and that. So not a ton of news out of this one, which I think is probably a good thing.
Yeah. So
I asked Day about the 2nd and 5, 3rd and 5 penalty that they declined at Michigan.
Yeah.
If you remember, at some point in the second half, it was 2nd and 5. Michigan, had a gain of 0 or it was incompletion or whatever. There was a holding call. A lot of times you see a coach there take the 2nd and 15 and back them up 10 yards. Ohio State declined the penalty and kept it at 3rd and 5. Another humiliating way of Ohio State winning with humility is just we know you're not getting 5 yards, so we're just going to take 3rd down instead of 2nd and 15. But also, he talked about how analytics go into the decision, vibes go into the decision. Ultimately, it is Ryan Day's decision. And it sounded like he kind of turned to Matt Patricia and was like, what are you calling on 3rd and 5 if we stay at 3rd and 5? And Patricia was like, I love what I'm about to call. And Dave was like, all right, 3rd and 5, go for it. We don't care. So that was very quietly another humiliating thing that Ohio State did to Michigan was that decision to turn down that penalty. You don't see that a ton. I thought it was the right decision, though.
Yeah, mainly because Michigan wasn't going to get the 3rd and 5.
Yeah.
Matt's like, yo, I got this dope 3rd and 5 thing I'm dialing up here. It's like, yeah, I know. You could just run base and they're not going to get it either. I've been watching teams against you all year. They're not getting this 3rd and 5. Okay, so that's all the Michigan and newsy things that happened in the presser. Let's take a break, and then we'll come back on the other side, and we'll start to dive into Indiana here on Buckeye Talk.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
And we're back on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis as we look ahead to the Big Ten championship game. Yeah, this was kind of the most questions Day has gotten about an opponent this year. Because even the Texas game, he got asked questions, but they were kind of in this mold of like, hey, what do you think about Arch Manning? Hey, is it crazy that you're playing the number 1 team in the country the first week and versus some of the ball talk stuff, Stefan? Let's start with Fernando. What does Day think of Fernando Mendoza?
Sneaky athletic is what he called him. He's obviously an accurate passer, an effective passer, and good at, kind of dissecting RPOs and knowing what to do, on any given play, but also really talented in terms of, throwing the ball, right? He's a guy who's being projected as a top 5, top 3, maybe even number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. And add into that, add into the RPO element that he can sometimes keep and take it himself. And it makes him a difficult guy to defend. And of course, the experience element of it, right? He's a guy who started at Cal last year and has been the starter for Indiana, all throughout their undefeated run this season. And that's not something Ohio State's seen a ton of. Think back to Arch Manning week 1 and the lack of experience that he had. You think about DeMond Williams and, Bryce Underwood and some of these quarterbacks, Grunkelmeyer, that Ohio State has played this year that don't have, a ton of experience. That's not what Mendoza is, right? He was the starter for a pretty good Cal team, or at least a bowl eligible Cal team last year. And now he's a guy who's, led Indiana to a 12-0 regular season and played against Oregon's defense and Iowa's defense and Penn State's defense, right? He's gone up against some talented units and played really well. So Ryan Day had a lot of praise for him, but obviously Ohio State knew what they had with Julian Sayin. It would be funny if it was maybe, instead of it going into the 2024 season that they needed a transfer, if they were going into a 2025 season, I wonder if Mendoza would have been a guy that they would look at. Ryan Day had a lot of praise for him. He's a guy that Georgia tried to get in the portal this offseason, and Indiana winds up landing him. And I think you see now in this Heisman race, how good of a quarterback he's been. So I think Ohio State knows this is probably the toughest challenge that they have, in the sense of the best offense that they faced all year, but also probably the best quarterback that they faced all year, and definitely, among the most experienced. So there's a lot of elements that make Fernando Mendoza a tricky guy to prepare for.
We're not going to go deep dive into this because obviously we got a live show we're going to do on Thursday. The live show has been on Wednesday at 11 a.m. all year. We're actually moving it to accommodate our media schedule, since we're going to essentially be at the Woody most of the day on Wednesday. And then, so it's going to be Thursday at 2 p.m. on YouTube. Hope you guys can come show out. Listen, we had fun doing it last week. We've had fun doing it every week, so it should be fun. So I don't want to go deep dive into the Indiana stuff, but Gillis, I do want to ask you this. Which side of the ball is going to give Ohio State more fits as they're game planning through the week? Not on Saturday, but just in terms of trying to put a game plan together. Experienced quarterback in Fernando Mendoza and this offense, or this defense with a guy at all three levels who I think is a bit of a dude. And again, I understand Ohio State's defense is historically good, but Indiana, a lot of their numbers are on par with or better than a lot of the other teams in the country. So, again, essentially what I'm asking, who is going to have more of a headache this week? Brian Hartline as the offensive coordinator, Matt Patricia as the defensive?
I think it's Matt Patricia, because Matt Patricia's unit's better than Brian Hartline's unit. But
ooh, that's a take.
I didn't. Okay.
I think it's no. I don't. No. You're saying
that. Yeah.
Let's have a question about that.
Yeah. So I mean, personally, I think Ohio State's better defense is better than their offense, which is hilarious because it's like you've got a maybe Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, the best receiver in the sport, maybe the second best receiver in the sport. Like, you're really good offensively, but this is also the first time that you've kind of been tested defensively in a long time. Like Ohio State has faced good to decent defenses this year. I think two things are true. I think Ohio State's the best team in the country far and away. I also think that they haven't played anybody really that great. I think two things can be true. And we talked about it all year long. It's like we thought the Texas game was going to be a matchup, and that even if you consider that one like a true whoa, this was a bona fide war, they haven't played anybody since August 30th that gives them that kind of challenge offensively. Washington was good with Jonah Coleman. You got Boston at receiver. They've got the mobile quarterback. They've got some weapons there, but nothing like this Indiana offense. And I think the issue that Ohio State's going to have is you've got an experienced quarterback, but then you've also got a run game that's effective, a really good receiver. Then you pair that with the idea of their offensive line getting better in an RPO scheme and a run pass option scheme. And I think that's problematic. Last year we saw Indiana's offensive line completely melt before our eyes. And I didn't get a chance to ask Ryan Day this on Tuesday, but I'm curious what he thinks of their offensive line's improvement from a year ago. So I think it's Indiana's offense. Ryan Day said it puts you in conflict, which I think is code for we got to run base and let our guys win. I think they're going to, but especially against an RPO scheme, against a quarterback who's really, really good, you can't get too creative or he will find spots where you're not there and he will figure out how to run against a blitz or run into a blitz where you miss him, or, he'll throw away from, a coverage double on one side. You just got to be basic this week. And I think that's going to be a challenge for Patricia, where it's hey, we've been doing all this schematic stuff all year. I think this is the week where we just have to let guys go play football and let guys win one-on-one matchup.
Do you agree with that, Stefan, that the offense is a bigger challenge?
Yeah, probably, because I think part of it is we're spoiled by watching Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate all the time, that it's easy to forget that Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper might be two of the other two of the 4 best receivers in the Big Ten as well. So they got weapons, on the perimeter to go, challenge guys like Davison and Jermaine, and to go along with, they got 2 or 3 guys that they feel pretty good about at running back that can also, make an impact. So they're really talented, on the perimeter and what they have in the backfield. So they're really good. They're really good offensively, and they're going to be tough to slow down because it's so tough to predict, right? This is a challenge that they haven't really had this year. I mean, that said, I think when we get to our game predictions, I'm going to pick a pretty low scoring game because I think most of these defenses are pretty good. So I think they're going to be challenged, but I think both of these defenses are probably going to be up for the task.
I think I agree with you guys. And I think part of the reason I agree with you is because Indiana isn't going to be the first top 20 defense that this Ohio State offense has played. Wow. That's also true for the defense. They played other good defenses and whatnot. But I do wonder with this offense, though, what happens when they play a team who has guys who can win one-on-one again? Because it's a double-edged sword with that Texas game of they chose to play conservative. They chose to play game control and do all those things. But also Texas had a really good defense, man. And they haven't played anything to that extent since then. I think Michigan's run defense was top 10 in the country. So the fact that they ran the ball in Michigan, I thought that was a quality thing. But in terms of they're playing a team who's got a guy on all 3 levels who can impact the game. And Michael Kamara, obviously he hasn't had as many sacks as he's had in years past, but he's got a lot of pressures. Aiden Fisher, who is one of the 3 best linebackers in the country. It's just the 2 guys who are ahead of him just so happen to be on the opposite sideline on Saturday. And then I think D'Angelo Ponce is the best cornerback in college football. And he did shut down Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate last year when he was matched up on them. He gave up 1 catch between the 2 last year. And I'm very intrigued by how Indiana goes about, covering Jeremiah and Carnell. And you brought up in the past, if you've got one guy, maybe you double the other guy and put your dude on number 2 guy. So does this mean that we see D'Angelo Ponce lined up on Carnell Tate and then they just double JJ? I think Indiana is the first team they've played in a while who actually is built in a way that they can at least try to do that, right? Or do they just have D'Angelo Ponce follow JJ around all day and then just keep a 2-high safety look so Carnell can't beat you deep? But these are conversations you can have this week that you couldn't have in years past, and it's something Ohio State has to think about. And so I agree. I think I think I just talked myself into it. I think the offense has a bigger challenge because someone has to prove to me they can score more than 10 points on the starting defense. I mean, we've seen Ohio State score less than 20 points this year. Right? We haven't seen the starting defense, give up more than 10 points all year. And so and the defense makes what the offense allows the offense to operate the way they operate. But those things have to work in tandem. So maybe I do think the offense has a bigger challenge this week. Plus, nobody on the defense, we're asking questions about their health concerns right now, the same way we are with the offensive side of the ball. Anything else we want to mention here on this pod?
There was a brief Heisman chat with Ryan Day. He kind of like somebody asked him who would you vote for Heisman? And he said, I would vote for both of them. So you don't get me in trouble. Ha. And then he was like, I would also throw Carnell Tate into this mix and Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese. And it's just kind of a reminder of oh yeah, you've got dudes on this team who are the best players in the country. And then they follow it up with dudes who are not even in consideration for the Heisman Trophy. And you're like, huh, they're also the best in the country. So yeah, I mean, I think, Ryan Day mentioned, he had a cool story about going to the Heisman and getting a bunch of autographs from Ron Dane and all these other people back when, he was younger.
He said his stepdad used to have a Heisman vote.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Fun fact.
Would his stepdad have voted for Diego Pavia this year?
I don't think so.
If Diego Pavia wins the Heisman Trophy, that is the final straw that it's time to revamp the way we vote for the Heisman Trophy and who votes for the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. But part of that, Ryan Day said, there's some thought out there, maybe we should just wait till the season's over, which I think is personally unfair. And we said with Steven, I said this on one of our videos, Steven was like, wow, Andrew, what a novel concept you're bringing up. Do it like every other sport, but yes, do it like every other sport. The Heisman Trophy should be awarded the Saturday after conference championship week. And then you should have I understand Stefan brought up you have to have an Orange Bowl MVP, a Cotton Bowl MVP. Okay, well, you should also have a playoff MVP. It's another trophy. Who cares? You're already giving out 500 million trophies anyway. Give out another one. Give somebody the postseason MVP award 99% of the time it's going to go to a player from the winning team and it'll be fine. And you can give out the call it the playoff Heisman. I don't know. Call it something unique. But yeah, Ryan Day did get asked about that. And he did. It's just, I wanted to bring that up because this game is obviously maybe for the Heisman Trophy. And Ryan Day also hears a lot of he is also kind of on the side of the complaints of a lot of people that are probably listening to this podcast going, why don't we just make this simpler? But why would anybody want to make anything simpler in college football?
You're wearing a Cotton Bowl hat that you got for free. They got to pay for that.
I'm wearing a Cotton Bowl hat and a Rose Bowl hoodie. I can be purchased. If anybody wants to send me gear, I'll wear it.
That is disgusting.
The Rose Bowl you paid a pretty penny for that Rose Bowl hoodie. I know that.
That's true.
It was like $60, $70.
That's a lot of money for a hoodie, man.
You just said into a microphone that $70 is nothing.
Which, by the way, everybody on the beat owns that hoodie. By the way,
I don't
know. This is like you show up on any given day, you will see somebody wearing this hoodie.
I still
all he just told our listeners is that the beat has groupthink.
Yes, and I've been telling the group that that's a Michigan sweatshirt, but that's neither here nor there. It's literally the check mark is literally navy blue. You guys are all pretending it's black, but that's fine. The thing I want to bring up from Day's presser is I think everyone's decided that once the game starts to matter, Ohio State is just going to score 70 points and air it out. I don't think that's the case. If they have to, I think they can, and I think they will. I think Ohio State, even in an indoor stadium, even at the Rose Bowl in pristine conditions, wherever it may be, Ohio State is very content winning a game 27-9, just like it did in Ann Arbor. So, if Indiana's offense is active and they're moving the ball more against this Ohio State defense than some other teams did, then I think Ohio State will maybe open up a bit and take advantage of, the track that is Lucas Oil Stadium. And I think the same goes for, they play Texas A&M and Marcel Reed does some things and whatever. But I think Ohio State's very okay leading on its defense when it needs to. And when it takes a lead of a couple scores, being okay saying don't make mistakes. It's what they've been all year, Steven. It's what they've been all year.
No, I know. And I'm still trying to, I've been trying to figure out if that's the case or not. But I agree for one more week because, well, no, and I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm being, this game prep is no different than the other 12 games they've played, right? They reviewed the film on Sunday/Saturday because they were stuck on a plane. Monday, the players are off. Tuesday, we talked today at noon. The players will get in there at 2:30. They'll have their team meeting. They'll go through practice. Wednesday, same thing happens again. We'll get in there at noon, talk today about signing day. Players meeting, practice. We'll talk today again. Thursday, they'll go through practice one more time. Friday, best Fridays in college football. They'll get on a plane to head to Indianapolis, right? There's still a level of routine to this because it's in line with the rest of the season. And so I agree with the notion of they have played like this for 2.5 straight months. To think that in 7 days we're just going to see a different version of Ohio State, I don't think is a realistic way to look at this, even if it is moving indoors. Now, does playing indoors provide an advantage to Ohio State that when you don't have to worry about the weather and you're on an indoor track because of the speed they have on the outside? Yes, it's not devaluing that. It's just you are correct in saying they have had the same routine for 12 straight games. They're going to change it up 7 days later? Probably not. But Day has also talked about once the bowl postseason gets here, the beauty of it is it's just football. There's no recruiting. There's no signing day. It's technically finals week at Ohio State because remember, these kids are still in school. So there is a lot happening this week that there's an element to it that is, it's not as emotional as rivalry week, but there are a million things happening this week that if Ryan Day and this coaching staff can find the best way to make it as routine as possible, they are going to do that. And it's going to show up again on Saturday. I agree with you on that point. But if you tell me they have 30 days to prepare for an opponent after that, and really it's more like, no, it'd be 30 days. But really, even then, it's more like 15 because they're going to find out 10 days before they have to play on because they have a bye week and they're going to be watching two different teams play. But still, this is a long period of time where there's no recruiting, there's no school, it's just ball. The next 2.5 months after Saturday are the most like the NFL college football can be. And so I do think there is a level of aggression that gets wound up a little bit more if this team win or lose on Saturday, whether they're playing in the Cotton Bowl, they're playing in the Rose Bowl at the end of December, early January, and then a semifinal national championship, where I think if you think there's something that Ohio State is holding back, which is what Kirk Cignetti said, I do think it applies there. I do agree with you. I'm not really expecting to see, now all of a sudden Ohio State's running a play every 15 seconds. That's just not.
Yeah. This was what we talked about where it was like leading into the Michigan game. I think we talked about this. Literally Purdue, Rutgers, UCLA of just, hey, don't go into the game against Michigan and let them control the flow of the game. Control the flow of the game. But this is kind of like I think we all agreed on that. Like this was kind of what I was saying of like, you can win any. Like Ohio State can map out a game plan against Indiana. And if Ohio State maps out a game plan against Indiana and says, like, if we suffocate them like a boa constrictor, we can win that game. And that's our best course of action, where we're efficient, we're quick, or we don't have to run quick. We can run a little slower. We're fine. Everything is good. If you get into a matchup where it's like, hey man, if we make them go, like I think if you play, like frankly with Indiana, that might be the game plan. And if you play a team that's like a running team and you look at it and go, hey, if we run, like if we go, then we'll be okay. Like if we can force them out of the run game because they need to score, then that's our positive way. And like, you mentioned the weather, like you're going to play indoors this week. It's going to be 72 and sunny in LA because it never rains in Pasadena. I'm sure it does every once in a while, but I also shoveled 4 inches of snow off my car this morning. Boo-hoo. So you're not going to have to deal with that. You're going to play in either the Fiesta Bowl or the Peach Bowl right after that, Dome. You're going to play in Miami after that. It's like, you're going to be fine. So the weather will be fine, but we will play any way we need to play to win. And we will, I think that's what, and Steve was kind of making that point like a couple of weeks ago. Like if you're Ohio State, you need to look at every game going, we will dictate the flow of the game. We will dictate the pace of the game, but it's not because we have to. It's because we think what's best. Like if Ohio State's defense was hideous, they would have to say, we have to do this, blah, 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 blah. If Ohio State's offense was hideous, they would say, well, we have to play slow because our defense is really good, but our offense sucks. And now it's just, this is the best. It's not out of weakness. This is what we think we can do to beat this other team. And this is what we think the best course of action is.
And also 30 days from now, Cardell and JJ will be that much healthier. So there are some things you can do then, right? They were still, if you paid attention, they were still managing their reps. It's not like they played 60 snaps. The offense played 73 snaps, and neither Carnell or JJ played over 50 on Saturday. And a lot of that 20-play drive, they did that with like I formation looks. And they close out the game in I formation. So it's which I know I complained about a lot, but that's why. That's why they did it. That's why they did it. And so I am with you on that, Stefan. I don't like what are you really expecting to change with 7 days of game prep? They're going to do what's necessary to win the game on Saturday. But then after that, I don't know if you want to rain fire on everybody and just be everything people think you're going to be offensively and defensively. Listen, nobody said you were not allowed to win a game 50-6. You're allowed to do that. They just don't have to do that right now, and they don't want to do that right now. Just a stat, Ohio State's defense through 12 games this season allowed 3.77 yards per play. That is insane. The only other team under 4 for the regular season was Toledo at 3.91, but Ohio State's 3.77 yards allowed per play is 0.22 yards better than any Power 4 defense since 2016.
Damn.
That's insane.
That is insane. Also, shout out Toledo. You don't just bring an offense into Ohio and think that you're going to move the ball.
Yeah, it's Ohio football for you. Ohio has a chance to win two conference championships this weekend. Miami of Ohio, sorry, Andrew, has a chance to win one as well. I know, Gillis, that pains you on the inside.
They simply lost to the Bobcats, and now they get to play in the MAC championship game, and suddenly that's fine now. But I'm okay.
Hey, man.
Well, yeah,
I watched it on the field.
We should talk more Ohio football.
You know what? the Ohio Bobcats should claim the MAC championship if Miami wins.
Again, please, let's talk more about the Ohio Bobcats.
You don't have to twist my arm. I'll keep doing it.
Okay, address the elephant in the room.
It's the ability to read the room sometimes, Sometimes just reading the room and understanding the tone of the sarcasm that's coming off.
Nope.
Even though he is wearing Ohio Bobcat colored hoodie right now, to be fair.
No, I'm wearing the Stefan is. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. We just had a conversation about what I was wearing.
I'm going to be coaching them soon.
614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. That's Ohio State, Indiana talk from Ryan Day. As you're listening to this, we're back in the Woody. talking with Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni because it is signing day on Wednesday. It's actually the signing period, which will run Wednesday through Friday. Gillis, final mark down. Will Caden Wyatt-Dixon be a Buckeye or no? Quick answer. No, yes or no?
No.
Okay, that's the
I
answer.
don't think great about it, but no.
Okay. Yeah, they're going to be right or wrong. But that's life. Right or wrong. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Signing day on Wednesday. Live show on Thursday / game preview pod. And then we head to Indianapolis as Ohio State starts playing indoors, man. Indoors. No more snow for Steven. I hated that last week. I don't want to deal with that ever again.
Ohio State had one bad weather game all season.
Yeah, it's one more than I wanted.
It's like when they get indoors, it's going to be unleashed. It's like, I don't know, man. It was pretty nice against Penn State and UCLA and Purdue.
Sorry. Let me. This isn't about Ohio State's play in the weather. This is about whether I have to stand in the weather. This is a selfish reason. This has nothing to do with anything other than that.
Yeah, follow Buckeye Talk on TikTok to see what Brennan had a nice cut up of Steven reacting to the cold. It was pretty good.
I hated it. I hated that cold weather, man. Hated it. And I was born in Ohio. 5. For Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you guys later.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. Mm-hmm. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.